Hi, welcome to The Pursuit of Truth. So, I've been watching this BBC, it's a comedy called There She Goes. It stars David Tennant. And it's two series, and it's all about this family who have a child with a chromosome disorder, much similar to autism. And it's interesting, whoever wrote this must have an autistic or disabled or a chromosome altered child, because it has so many things that I recognise in my autistic daughter, to do with the noises they make, the way they act, the struggles that you get from school and other things, and all the pressure. And I must admit, when I saw the clip, it was the library one, and I instantly recognised Alina when I saw that, and so I wanted to watch it to see it. And I saw lots of reviews. It was on Facebook, and they were saying how, they can't watch it because it's too close and it makes them sad and etc. And so I thought, what's this all about? And then when I realised I watched it, I felt that there were moments where I was crying at these moments, because I see this in Alina, and the one I recently watched is the last but one, where they're at the last but one, where they're at a round table, everyone introducing themselves is at the school, and I instantly recognise that as I've gone through that, and what I would say we call the struggles that you have with lots of the departments, that what it appears, and this is a strange thing, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, to do with the pursuit of truth, in the sense that it's another one of the failings of the system that we live within, that's meant to give equality to every individual, no matter what, whether they have a disability, whether they're autistic, what colour they are, sexual orientation, all those things. But because the system is contained within an idea that humans can be separated out by which bit of land they found themselves upon, which we've cut up and called different things, and have taken possession of those, it can never really have equality for humanity. And even in the system that we live within, we can't even have equality for those individuals that don't fit in neurotypical, don't, say like in England, majority of the system is still managed by white older people. There is, and the inclusion is slowly creeping in and changing, but it's not changing at a rapid enough level, because, schools basically, because all the rich people, majority, because of historically, are white, and therefore go to private schools. And that's why if you look at the governments of the UK, in the USA and etc., you'll find a lot of them are mainly white. I think I've gone off tangent a little bit, but what I was trying to say is with autism, and how I found it, is that what it appears, even though the autism is known for how many years, 60 years is it now, that it was diagnosed. I mean, obviously it's probably been around forever, but and disability as well, a lot longer. But then I remember in school in the 80s that there wasn't really that much equality for disabled or autistic children, and yet they must have known about it back then, but they were just put in a room. As I said, the remedial room was where they were, and now they have special schools. Maybe they had special schools then, I don't know. But the problem is that even now in 2022, I get a feeling when I watch these webinars, when I speak to the people who are entrusted with these positions, whether it's, SEND, class, school, SENCO, all these different organisations, to me it still appears that there's no real proper strategy. There's no real... I wonder whether any of it is based on research. It's definitely not based on research that they've done. I mean, that's the same with GPs, isn't it? All the research is done by someone else, and this research could be, a lot older, because a lot of the ways they deal with these things are not with modern technology. It's still paper and things, and yeah, obviously they have a place, but children are a lot more advanced now. They use technology, and therefore you could use that to help. Especially because autistic children seem to like technology a lot. I don't know why, but yeah. The thing is, it just doesn't feel like, when I don't get that feeling of, yes, these people really know, because when you go to these webinars, it's so generic, so general, and the help, it doesn't seem like, I know with autism there's no magic pill. It's not, I know there's a spectrum disorder and there's lots of different variations, but there are lots of things with communication and interpersonal things that are the same with most, if not all, autistic children. Maybe there just isn't like saying there's not a magic pill. Maybe there isn't a strategy that you just have to. What I've witnessed is a lot of it is about persistence, obviously, but a lot of it is actually about timing. That these things, I suppose the problem is you can't take away the bit to know where exactly you went right, but it seems like it's timing. You can do like potty training, you can do it at a certain time and it fails, and then you do it later down and then it starts to pick up and then it works. So I know they say that with every child is different, but I know that with autistic children, that I don't know whether the teachers and those people involved in SEND and class and etc. are the ones bringing out of Alina. I'm not trying to sound trying to put them down or anything. Maybe it does play its part, but a lot of it seems to be down with timing. If you find that right pocket of time, and then that child will suddenly click and then follow through, like with reading or writing, like with Alina at 2. She could read from the TV screen. She could read properly. She'd done phonics already. Now at school they're going back to phonics, and now she's doing like phonics and reading at the same time, and it seems like it's confused her. Whereas they should have just, because they didn't think she could read, even though we sent them many videos, they should have just carried on with trying to get her to read rather than going back to phonics, because she's already learnt the phonics. Now it's like, that's what makes me feel like, is there really an understanding of autism and disability of every school should be able to accommodate and strengthen and move forward with children, all children, no matter what. I suppose there's some disabilities where they may not be able to be in a school setting because it's so extreme and they need a lot of care. So I understand, and maybe with autism at the very end of but like when we went to the first meeting, they're already talking about a different school. I suspect by different school, I don't know whether they said different school or special school, but I think they said different school, that can meet Alina's needs. And I noticed that in that, I've forgotten it now, the last song, the David Tennant thing I was talking about at the beginning. Yeah, so it just, and then when I was been going through these webinars and seeing Alina, I've sort of started to think that I can see some of these things in me. That have I been undiagnosed autistic all my life and not known it? Because I've always wanted to be, say, normal, or what you would call neurotypical now. I've always felt different, and I've always felt shy and anxious, but I always put it down to just the way I was brought up, or just this is me. But now looking at these things, looking at Alina, I do notice some of these things and wonder whether I do have a very mild autism, because I do struggle with certain things. But like I say, I put them like with interpersonal things. I'm not good with phones. I'm not good with face-to-face or confrontation, but I put that down to maybe my parents being too keeping me at home and not. But then I did used to, like, I was thinking, laying last night awake thinking about friends, and my first friend Jason, we used to go on the BMX. He had a BMX and I had the Rally. No, Rally was the company, wasn't it? I was going to say graffitis, not grafter, something like that. And we used to go like to the school, to all sorts of places. We used to go to this scrapyard, where we go under this tunnel where the water would fill up from the creek, and under this, you'd have to wait for that, the right time, got under it to get into this scrapyard and things. And I think it was with him that when the Stampshire First School was knocked down, it was across from where I went to middle school, I remember we went into that demolition area and into the caretakers where there was no windows and things upstairs and bits missing. And I mean, I can't imagine myself doing that now. What a rebel I was when I was young. And I was thinking to myself, like, where did I change? But of course, with autism, it develops over time, isn't it? But then maybe it's just environmental factors that happened to me that shaped me the way I am, that makes me, maybe look similar to an autistic child, but not. So I don't know. I've taken tests before and it says I'm not. And I suspect that, but the thing, I've been masking for such a long time. I didn't know there was such a thing because I've been looking up about this. Because when I saw these webinars, I started to think about myself, whether I am like this. And I know I've always had this funny thing, I'm going to share it with you now on the Pursuit of Truth, where with my hands, when I'm excited, and I'm sure in my family and my wife have seen me do this, when I'm excited, I go like this, with my hands, like this. And when I saw Alina doing that, well, she doesn't do that quite, she does it more, more movement, it's stimming. And then I realised, wait a minute, have I been doing this all my life? And not realise what this was. I just thought it was me. I didn't, think that it was some condition. I just thought that was some quirk that I have. But I do that when I get excited, like listening to music or something. So that made me think when I saw Lena doing it. When I looked up about what is that, because I want to know why is she doing this. But then, like I say, when I was young, I think I was quite confident. But I was never the one to although I did a play. I remember I wrote this Christmas play, The Boy Who Christmas Forgot. So, and even like when I was in Mayfield Comprehensive with my friend, I don't know which one it was, whether it was Gordon or whether it was John, Sylvester. We were going to do a Ghostbusters play. We never did it. We built like a backpack and things. Yeah. And Johnny, the thing is, because I always put myself down to, just the way my parents were very inside rather than outgoing. We didn't have a car. We never really went on a holiday anywhere. I remember I always had to lie and say, yeah, I went there. It was great. Well, I didn't go anywhere. I stayed at home all summer. So I just thought it was that made me the way I am. And always had this thing about loss, because Jason, I was very, he was my first friend, Jason McAvery, and sorry to mention you, and he wanted to, it's funny though, through time, I don't know whether this is a real, how accurate this is, because your brain changes, you forget things, and you dream about things, add things and take things away. But my recollection is that we were in Stampshire Middle School in the hall, and they were doing like break dancing. It was all the trend back then, and I couldn't do it. Obviously, he could, and I can't remember. I seem to remember him coming over to tell me that he wanted to be friends with these cool guys, cool other boys that were doing this, and I didn't. I think I didn't want him to do it because I felt that he didn't really want to do it. He was being pressured into doing it because he wanted to fit in with the cool kids, and I obviously wasn't. And I remember feeling like, yeah, so he went, and then I watched him doing it, and I felt that I could see in his eyes that he didn't really want to do it, but he just wanted to fit in. This is, what kids did back then. So I didn't have that friendship. And then I did go into hospital for an operation. And I always do wonder, was that what changed me? Going under, I remember the operation and waking up, I had like sleep apnea, sleep paralysis, or something like that. It could have been where the drugs were wearing off at different moments. I couldn't move, and I had this box on top of me, to stop me moving, to hurt myself. And I remember waking up not being able to move, and that scared me. And I wonder whether the drugs to put you to sleep, because a lot of people say they do, can affect morbidity. whether that changed me, into being the different person that I am now. Because when I think about, Jason and stuff we did, we were told not to go to Queen Elizabeth Country Park, and we went with our bike, or he went with his bike, I walked. And I remember we walked up, we were told not to go there because I obviously had asked my parents, can I do it? It was miles away, we were never going to reach it. It's funny how when you're a kid, how you think, but we were at this motorway, walking down it on the side, and then we thought, no, this is too dangerous, let's go back. I remember telling my parents at the door and crying and getting told off for doing that. But then Gordon was my friend, and then there was Oliver. I can't remember what Oliver's name was. His family were well off. I remember going to his house. It was so big, and we used to play. It wasn't Dungeons and Dragons. It was the one where you had like catapult and crossbow, something like that. I really loved that game. I wanted it. I never had it, but he had it, and we used to play that on his table. But I remember his dogs, they came at me and caught me under the eye. That's why I was always scared of dogs. And then obviously he went to, I think, Portsmouth Boys. I went to Mayfield Comprehensive, so I lost him. Gordon, I lost after he threw my shoe into the road. And what would become my next set of friends was what was his name? Warren, Neil, Darren. They then saw what happened and said you shouldn't be friends with him, so I wasn't friends with him. Now I was friends with them. And then when they started at the end, I don't know if it was then or Portsmouth College, they started to like girls, and I just didn't know what to do, so I just hid. And then I used to just walk home. It was a 45-minute walk. So I'd walk 45 minutes home, and it was a 2-hour gap in Portsmouth College. So I'd walk 45 minutes home. Sometimes I'd go in, and they say, "Why have you walked home?" Because I couldn't take bus. I wasn't confident enough to take bus. Even I would go into the school rain, covered in rain. I remember sitting in the auditorium thing and being soaking wet. My trousers, my shirt, my feet. And I used to walk 45 minutes and then 45 minutes back to kill the 2 hours because I didn't know what to do with myself, because they were the only friends I had and they were interesting girls, and I was too shy and I didn't know what to do, so that's why I just did that. So I don't know whether I'm autistic or very mildly autistic, or whether it's just environmental things that's made me see those have those similarities, but then doesn't explain why I do the shaking of the hands when I'm excited. That is an autistic trait. I'm not very good with face-to-face and confrontation and things like that. And I've always had the anxiety and stuff. When I was younger, I used to always think of in my head, like, what am I going to say? I'll be speaking, and someone will be speaking, and I'll be thinking, what can I say next? And I'll be thinking, should I say this, should I say that? By the time the conversation had finished, I wouldn't say anything. So, and obviously the masking and things, and I don't know, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I've always found it difficult being me and getting people to understand me. And as I get older, I seem to get more anxious and more like I want people to do the right thing, and it concerns me more about how people think about me and all that kind of stuff, whereas it shouldn't. And I think I don't really have any friends since Portsmouth College. At work, the places I've worked, I can't really call them friends, more like colleagues. The last friend I had would have been Warren, Darren and Neil. I remember I used to go to Darren's house to watch. He used to watch Match of the Day. I wasn't interested in football, but he used to have a computer. We used to play games. Even Jason used to have ZX81. I always wanted one then, but I had an Acorn Electron. But yeah, it's very difficult when you're not like neurotypical or normal, whatever you want to call it, and you always want to be normal, and you just have these anxieties and you just want to hide away. And like when I think of all those people, like my kids, I always want them to have friends, but then I think about myself, why can't I make friends? Things like I'm still like, I was trying to still find John Sylvester, that he left in the middle. I just want to tell the story. and a lot of these friends, they appear in Dead City, their names, you'll see them. He just went to, I can't remember what island it was, one around near Scotland, Channel Islands, one of those, but he just left one summer, and when I came back, I remember that loss, that feeling of like, how can I rewind time, how can I contact him? They didn't have mobiles back then, and that was the same time also when my cat, Tom, which had been all of my life, died, and feeling that loss, and that's where the loss comes from in my poems. It's from those two events, and I was trying to find him on and off. I try and find him on Facebook. I thought I found him because it's John Sylvester, but I thought his name was spelled like Sylvester McCoy Sylvester, but this one was S-I-L, and that's maybe why I found him. It said he was born in Portsmouth, he was in the right kind of Channel Islands. I messaged him, he never got back to me. It's funny, he probably never thought of me ever again, and there's me sort of pining after him, and then thinking that, then realising I'm always looking for the child, but he's not like that, and he was grown up. But now thinking that I don't have these friend connections, I don't see like, ooh, it's like more hassle than it's worth. But I wish I had friends. I wish I could find someone that had a connection with, that I would be interested in. The thing is, I don't really want to bring them to the house. I don't want to go out, and so like, it's just easier not. So these things, they all make me think that, I have some form of autism or something like that. Anyway, I waffled on. It was all about There She Goes. Now that's the last song, and how good it shows you how stressful it is. I find it stressful. I'm lucky that I've been able to work from home due to COVID. I don't know how my wife would have coped if alone. We don't cope together. How would she cope? Because it's so difficult. Even all the support and help is so difficult. Having an autistic child, and me being possibly autistic as well, that doesn't help in the mix, does it? With all my anxieties and worrying about, 1 minute it's like the school with scarlet fever or head lice, or wetting themselves, or all these things that are not communicating, not getting help from the school, and thinking, will she ever talk to me in the way that, say, my other son Aidan, her twin, does? The great, it's difficult. Anyway, I'm going to finish there. Take care, easy. God bless and peace.